So a person I've known, a friend of mine for decades and decades, most of my life. Her son was found unresponsive this last week on his naval ship. He was in his fourth year of a 6-year contract with the U.S. Navy. And it was ruled a suicide, and it's one of the hardest things to even grapple with when somebody loses a child. It's fucking brutal. But apparently,
especially like in a situation like that, where like surely any parent whose kid joins the military worries about this kind of shit, you know?
Yeah, and apparently he was not doing well in there. He was seeking release from the Navy and was told several things about why he couldn't get out or why, whatever. I don't know the exact details of it, but then it came to light. She was corresponding with a lot of, and I don't know how much I can really say because I don't really know the legalities of any of it, or how much she should be saying about this, because she is apparently somewhat convinced that there were extenuating circumstances that pushed him over the edge, and that his immediate superior officers were well aware of his mental state and continued to berate and punish based on this perceived lack of, whatever, unity or just this perception of him being weak, however it played out. And so in the family's mind, they are responsible for him, committing suicide.
Right.
Now, I don't know. So my immediate question about that is, okay, so the tragedy is almost, indescribable. I can't imagine. I don't have any kids. I have, nieces and I can't imagine. I know people who have lost children before. It never leaves you. It's not. This is, it's one of the worst possible scenarios that a parent could ever possibly face. Maybe the worst. So I don't even understand like how somebody would be dealing with all of this. Yeah, I guess you have to sort of forego grieving until this is taken care of or something like that. Because so they've started accounts, Justice for Jake. They have been in correspondence with a bunch of other military personnel that have said that there are rotten elements in that particular, I don't know that shit. I don't know how that works. That not the branch, because this is my thought initially is there's a few things. So one, everyone has seen Full Metal Jacket, where we kind of understand that when you join the military, sort of what they're doing, it's not an easy atmosphere,
right?
You know what I mean? There is a certain expectation to, I don't know, quote unquote, man up, or, you know what I mean? You have to be sort of made into a soldier. But where is the line between that and just sort of torturing someone that like, this is the thing, is if somebody is mentally compromised and is, in that state of mind where they've already expressed, these sort of suicidal ideations, well, where is it then the military's responsibility to get them help,
right? To
provide some sort of counseling or therapy or a dismissal, or I don't know. But But the other thing is like when she's choosing to now in her mind she needs justice for the death of her child, and she sees this as at the hands of a malicious superior officer who basically pushed this child, this kid over the edge knowingly. Sure. And I don't know the real details of this case, but my thought of this was how insurmountable of a challenge is this going up against the U.S. military? Like that, how do you even go about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. And I don't know what like.
I mean, Pete, there's been a lot of famous cases of people who, I remember there was a Vietnam POW whose family fought for decades and decades because there was, they had lied about like knowing where he actually was, but not
done anything
about it and stuff. And then he ended up, I guess, living for long after they had reported him dead. And there was all this evidence that he was alive as a POW for years and years afterwards and stuff. And yeah, it was, I mean, brutal, but like to get them to, and it seemed like pretty, the case I'm thinking of, I don't remember all the details, but the case is, there's many of those where it seems like, okay, you have definitely neglected your duty to
like
these
you
people.
have a duty.
I mean, this is a classic thing among veterans is like, I think most of them would probably tell you this shit is, there's very little support, like what I just pulled up a quick stat. Veterans, let's see, suicide, the rate of suicide in 2020 among U.S. veterans was 31.7 per 100,000. That doesn't seem like great numbers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that seems pretty fucking high.
Yeah.
That's a massive number.
Yeah, right.
And that's veteran. And now here's the other thing is, I have a feeling that she's going, if this is, pursued, which she apparently seems, pretty motivated to pursue. And I understand this. I don't even understand it from a personal view. But I understand. I mean, if anyone who loses a child, say to a drunk driving, somebody who ran, a car accident and the person was drunk, or somebody that, anytime somebody loses a child, they're always seeking justice. And you'll see this. Families will exhaust all their, all of their resources just following, because the police aren't doing their job. They'll say these things like, and sometimes they prevail and sometimes they're left, without anything and now broken. So I understand that this is a natural response to something like this. It's like, I need to know what happened. And then there's another thing is, apparently there was no note left, which they say would be massively out of character for this kid, that he would have definitely said goodbye to family, said goodbye to friends. You know what I mean? He would have and the fact that there was no note, they think that was probably cleaned up beforehand, before any of the reporting went, because it probably named somebody. Now, this is obviously all conjecture and just sort of.
That's the thing. This stuff is very confusing, and you've known people who committed suicide, and so have I. And it can be an extremely hard thing to accept as reality. Like with one friend of mine, I was like for days convinced, like, there's no fucking way somebody set this up. Somebody did this. You know what I mean? And
well, it's a natural response.
Yeah.
To blame,
right.
To want to put the blame on somebody else. And it is, and it's.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that's my whole sort of apprehension to her decisions to do this. But I mean, she has apparently decided to do this and has this Justice for Jake kind of, I don't know. I don't remember exactly what it's. I mean, it's an Instagram thing, and a social media thing, and they're being very public with it. And I don't know. I know she was talking to
they could very well be justified. I don't know
attorneys. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, if you are, well, then you're very, then
right.
you're.
And we had a comment here from Flamingo. Naval officers are trained to almost mistreat their enlisted service personnel. You wanted to have him call in, right?
Yeah. So we thought that's the military is being.
You're like the only person that knows a lot about this world that we know.
I may not sound like a dick. Yes, it's sad. However,
who said this?
Well, Andrew Critchell says the military is being held responsible for someone not being strong enough for the military. I am not trying to sound like a dick. Yes, it is sad. However. Now this is where the crux of the situation lies to me. Is there a
do you want it to not be psychotically tough?
It's our military, and I hesitate to even talk about this because I don't want her. Obviously she is in the midst of the beginnings of all of this fucking just emotional turmoil, to a degree that I can't even imagine. I mean, when I heard about this, I don't even know her. I just know her but I know, her and his father and all, and we regularly joke on this show of, how callous and, heartless I am. And the reason we joke about that is because it's pretty much true.
Yeah. Like I like to say, Tom is basically just like a bunch of scorpions dressed up like a man and went out.
Yeah. Like but when I was, told about this, it was, I immediately was, choked up, teary eyed. This is one thing that gets me, because the reality of it is losing a kid is widely known and widely accepted as the hardest fucking thing that you can possibly, have to endure as a parent. And so I hesitate to even sort of explore some of these things, but I think that it's, within the subject, you have to explore certain things. And I hope, if she ever sees this, or I know some people that are very close with her and are sort of side by side with her while she's doing this right now.
Well, they kind of
are in the chats.
They kind of asked us to talk about this. Right?
Yeah, I mean, one of her very close friends said that they're trying to get. And what she's saying is she would, she wants anyone with, similar stories or any sort of, anecdotal or any sort of information that might have, she's just sort of not grasping at straws, but
we can share their pages and stuff too that they're.
Yeah. Let me, I can find some of that, and
we'll make sure we do it before we leave.
Yeah, for sure. But, I just don't know, like, where is the line between, what is making a soldier and what is, harassment and torture, knowingly.
Well, why don't you ask our pal, the Flamingo,
yeah,
what
so,
he thinks?
Hey, what's up? You're on with Tom Vinny. How are you, man?
Hey, Tom. Hey, Vinny.
Hello.
Hello there.
Sure, man. I've enjoyed listening, fellas. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Great topics this evening.
Well, thank you
very
sir.
much.
That is coming from a sworn enemy, so that's so that means a lot. So yeah, I'm sure. I think you've heard this sort of the subject up till now, and we thought actually when I had run this by Vinny, because I was sort of apprehensive to even broach the subject, since it's so close to people that I know and whatever. I didn't really want to miss that, but I think it is sort of it's an extremely interesting topic, and so we thought you might actually be a very poignant perspective on this, being ex-military, and we didn't really ever go. Yeah,
were you in the Navy at some point?
I was.
Yeah, that's
okay,
what I thought.
So my first job.
Okay, cool.
And so what do you think now? Now this boy was an electronics engineer, I want to say, and apparently electrocuted him. I don't know. There may have been more information since I was last updated, but I think that was what was the cause of death. And but from what I understand, he had talked to people leading up to this, saying that it was seeking an out, and was being told that he was not getting out. And then from what they were also told by people, and here's another thing, is a lot of people were messaging her, telling her that his immediate superiors had been fucking with him, and sort of driving and intentionally pushing him. And then a lot of these people unsent messages, and I think a lot of them were realizing, like, oh shit, I can't be going public against, you know what I mean? So I don't know where they're at right now, but I just thought,
ask him a question.
Yeah, I just thought maybe you could inform us of, like, your experience, if this is something that is sort of known and not talked about, or if it's not commonplace. What do you
Sure.
what do you think?
Well, first, my heart goes out to the family. I'm really sorry for their loss. That's nothing you can ever really just brush over or
it's insane.
take easy, right? Whenever my time in the Navy, the one thing that I learned as I was enlisted, naval officers are actually trained to almost mistreat the enlisted personnel, maintain a complete line of separation between enlisted and officer. And on a naval ship, it can be really mentally challenging. The only thing I can describe being on a Navy ship as is if you took a job at your local factory that made refrigerator parts, and you had to work in it for 18 hours a day, and the other 6 hours you got to sleep, shit, and shower there and eat. At the factory. That's what the Navy's like.
Yeah.
You get some cool stuff when you pull into some ports and things, and I had a good duty station. But the military also, though, in their defense, I saw lots of people who had mental issues or a mental breakdown at some point along in their career. And there are support groups when, there's help that they do have, but they can also be kind of hard. It can come across like they're hard or not being helpful, or like he wants out and they're telling him that he can't. And the reason why is because if they made it easy to get out, guys, the military fucking sucks. It's work. You would have everyone just getting out. So sometimes the conflict that I think sometimes supervisors may have is learning how to tell the difference between someone who is really having a mental issue. Or someone who just hates the suck and just, wants out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I actually know a few people that are extremely close to me, family members and sort of family friends, that I know one person that actually got out of the Army by continuously claiming that he was suicidal. And eventually they released him, but he was not suicidal. He just didn't want to fucking be in the Army because he hated it, And so I do know that happens. Yeah. So this is the problem. So my question to you is, I don't know how much you want to divulge of your sort of military credentials or career, but how high did you go? Like, I know you said that you had been overseas as non-military personnel afterwards. So that would be, like a private contractor. And so that would, my guess is that you made it fairly high up as an enlisted man goes.
Yeah. Well, I had a really weird job. So I went into the Navy and as a cook. I was a cook at an Italian restaurant in Madisonville, Kentucky through high school. And so when I graduated, I was like, hey man, I'm going to go be the chef,
Yeah.
And I ended up graduating top of my class at Lackland Air Force Base is where they had the naval cooking classes on an Air Force base. That was weird.
Okay.
But because of that, I ended up being selected to become the chef for the Admiral of the 6th Fleet. And I had to go through and get a top secret clearance, and I got through that. And then they sent me to the Culinary Institute of America in New York for 6 months. And then I got stationed in Gaeta, Italy. And I worked directly for this admiral. I cooked for him and the chief of staff and then the high-ranking flag officers. It was a pretty cool job. Got to meet a lot of dignitaries.
Yeah, that's okay.
And ambassadors and stuff. It was cool.
Wow.
When I got out, I got into private business. And in 2014, I was recruited to an intelligence agency. It's actually one of the United States.
Could you have
clearance still after that?
Okay, if you wanted to, could you have us killed? Do you think?
Yeah, we worried about this.
I've been worried about that for a while.
Vinny has expressed concern over this for months now.
Well, let me tell you something, gentlemen, that I have found out about the world. That if anyone wants to kill any of us, anybody can kill any of us.
That's
you know
sure.
what I mean?
That's a good point. I got family that's Mexican cartel. Let's just say
if Sirhan can do it, then who can't, right?
Yeah,
wink, wink.
Yeah. But I will tell you what, you're talking about veterans and suicide, and I think part of the problem, the reason why they're not making a dent in the suicide rate with veterans, is I almost think they're misdiagnosing it to a degree.
Yeah, I saw another. Sorry to cut you off for a second. I just saw another estimate here that put it at like 40 to 44 veterans per day in the U.S. And then there was another study that claims that could even be like 50% of the actual numbers. So this is fucking nuts, man. Yeah.
They're labeling it PTSD. And in 2014, I spent 7.5 years doing work in the Mideast. And 5 years of that was on a front line with militia groups. And mostly fighting ISIS. One thing that I learned about PTSD from a lot of the guys I got to work with is none of us regret anything that we did.
Yeah.
We regret the things that we didn't do. Those are the things that haunt us. And I think what happens is when these veterans, we take these guys, they're 18 years old, they're high school, by the time they get done with their training, they're 20, 22 tops,
Yeah, it's
right?
it's fucking
we
nuts,
send them
man.
out to a front. Yeah, we send them out to a front line, and we tell them, "Hey, there's this evil out here, and without you, you are the line of defense protecting the whole world."
Yeah, fucking crazy.
And then what happens is, they go out there and they kick ass and take names, and then they get done, and we send them home, and now they're back in these little, whatever towns with whatever job
with no purpose.
And sense of purpose. I think it's sense of purpose.
I've heard this over and over from people. I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with like Jocko Willink and Andy Stumpf and
Sure.
all of the sort of veterans. These are mostly special forces guys, but they've gained notoriety through podcasts and whatnot. And I've heard that through them, and I've heard that tangentially outside of those circles. That's really the big thing is you're going from this, first of all, this atmosphere of absolute brotherhood and loyalty and this camaraderie that is unequivocal. Like there's no, nothing else
real.
like that anywhere else.
It's real.
Yeah. And then you're on top of that, you're also serving this purpose in your mind that you're saving the world in essence. And then you come back after that and just are supposed to just work a desk job or fucking, be a janitor or whatever the fuck you're doing, or work in a, refrigerator repair factory or, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And these people are like, what happened? Like they Jones for like a lot of people, like a Tim Kennedy, they only want to be over there. They only want to be, but there's no other, life that stimulates them the way that everything else seems completely mundane and useless to them.
Yeah. I can tell you that's a great analogy. The conflict that Angela calls me out on all the time is she says,
That's
when I'm
lightning,
here,
everyone.
I want to be when I'm here, I want to be over there. But when I'm over there, I want nothing more than to be back here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, that's, yeah. So this, I think that is I think you're probably right with the PTSD misdiagnosis, and the real culprit for the overall suicide of veterans probably has something more to do with lack of purpose and lack of, a loss of purpose. And
plus a giant opioid epidemic.
I mean,
people dealing with injuries and stuff. There's a whole cocktail of things. But I wanted to ask Flamingo here, when you said it's the things you didn't do that haunt you, what did you mean by that?
It's sometimes like when you're on a line or something and you see one of your fellow teammates get wounded or killed, you always sit there and you say, hey, I should have done this, or I should have done that, or there's all the I should have, I don't know, guys. There's different things that come across at different times. It's like, should I have ran out there earlier, or should I have?
I see what you're saying. Like could I have changed the outcome on this where the outcome wasn't what you wanted?
It's kind of what you do not to downplay this aspect, but like I could relate to that in the way of just like it's kind of what you do anytime you lose anyone. You wonder like was there something I could have fucking done? Was there like
absolutely?
But anyways,
or like you'll sit there for an example. There was a guy on my team, and he was a real fucking dick. Just a real asshole. You hated training with him. He just always ran his mouth, and he annoyed the shit out of you.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you it's a pretty shameful moment for me. We were on this intel base with the Kurds for 2 weeks before they were going to take us out to the forward operating base. And while we were there, we're doing training and stuff, and this pal of mine, he's just an asshole, gets on everyone's nerves, picks fights with everybody. It's like, man, this sucks enough, man. Just shut up,
Yeah.
Okay.
So finally, it's the night before we're supposed to get picked up to go to the front. And in Flamingo, at the top of this mountain, they've got like this ghetto strip club, okay?
Okay.
And it's an old bombed-out hotel. And what they do is on one half is where the Arabs go, and then all the Americans or whoever go to the left side. Well, what they do is the girls, they get to go over to the Arab side, and they get to give all the Muslims like lap dances and stuff, but on our side, they're only allowed to dance with us. They're not allowed to touch us. They're only allowed to dance on the dance floor. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was a complete Haji strip bar, you know?
Okay.
But that night, because this guy had been a dick the whole time, you know, I made arrangements for what time we were going to leave and didn't tell him. And I took the guy because I was like, I want a night out, good with the guys.
Did you mean leave to like
line.
come back to the United States and you just left him? You just left him over there behind enemy lines.
No, we left him on the intel base with the Kurt. You know,
so he didn't get to go have fun.
Okay.
Yeah. He didn't get to go have fun that night, right?
I thought you might have left him there forever.
So the next morning we load up. They get us out to the front, and one day after we got to the base, they're like throwing us right into the assignments, like, hey, we're going to fight, blah, 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 you know what I mean? And, man, I kid you not, there's me and this asshole, and he's my brother now. If he called me right now at 3 in the morning, I'd be there for him. I'm about to tell you why.
Sure.
And the rest of the team. And all of a sudden, all these guys who I've been training with, who are all like, I'm ready to go to the front. I'm ready to go to the front. I can't wait till we get to the front. I'm tired of being on this base. All of a sudden, didn't want to go to the front line no more. Okay. So I sat there and I was like, listen, guys, this is not bullshit. You know, you're in a war zone now. We're not back at home anymore.
Yeah.
Not in Kansas. Get your weapon. You're not going to fucking sit here while these Kurds load up in these trucks, go fight, you know, while you sit back here on your ass.
Yeah.
And let me tell you what happened. I grabbed my gun.
The Kurds
and I walked
have
up
had
the
a rough time already, you know. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I get to the truck, and I'm about to lift up in the back of this little white Nissan fucking truck with like a machine gun mount now. And a guy grabs my shoulder and pulls me back. And it's my pal Ryan. He's my, you know, he was an asshole before. And he looks at me and he goes, hey, battle buddy, I'm not going to let you go out to the front by yourself. And you know what? He got in the truck. And out of the whole team, we're the only 2 that went to the front that day. And he wouldn't let me go by myself. And
shit.
You know what?
What did you do up there?
Fought.
What's that?
Were you going up there to like fight or like fucking get in intel or like what do you have to go like how does that work that you're the only 2 that go like
with the Kurds?
Oh, with the okay.
Yeah, the Kurdish fighters were going up there, and these are
the Kurdish fighters.
I got you. And so you felt so that's something that you felt bad about fucking him over the night before, and then suddenly ends up being the only one that is willing to fucking have your back the next. Okay. Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah,
especially in a war.
We're friends, you know, and we still see each other and get together and stuff, but I still feel guilty about that, like a tremendous amount of guilt, like in a massive amount.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, okay, so obviously you have
and for anyone just joining, there's some people in disbelief. We are talking to the Flamingo right now about his Navy history and some of his stories and everything. We didn't really have a plan, but Tom wanted to zero in on something. But
my question then becomes: so you obviously have experience in the military, a lot of experience in the military. My question to you is: what do you think? I mean, is this an insurmountable hill that she's trying to go up to try to get any sort of resolution? Trying to out possible now. I understand that there's like the expectation that the military should be hard. I understand that it's supposed to be making soldiers out of people. But if there is some sort of, I'm sure there are rotten elements in there, just like any other place. And so if that is the case, that somebody was, because here's another thing is a girl that was on his ship as well came forward and said that she had a superior officer that had followed her around for like a week, telling her to kill herself. You know what I mean? These are the stories that my friend was getting.
Oh God, that's horrible.
And so if that is the case, and she does have some sort of a legitimate, case against this, is it even something? Do you think? I mean, I don't know where your sort of loyalties would have to lie.
No. I listen. I don't have loyalty to wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
If there's someone going around telling people to kill themselves and treat them shit, like, that person needs to be called out. That person needs to be disciplined and dealt with.
Yeah.
And most likely booted. Right.
Yeah, that's what I would think too.
Yeah.
You need to get the
other
rot out of any.
So, well, to answer your question, yeah. You know, if there's real evidence that took place, it's almost like she almost has an obligation to push it, right?
That's kind of what I was thinking.
For the protection of others.
Yes. Because the way you're describing it, and the way I've heard it described by others, is the military itself is supposed to be this band of brothers sort of a situation where you can count on each other, superiors and inferiors, so to speak, or whatever. You all there has to be some sort of a trust in the chain of command itself, or else it doesn't work anyway. So to me,
the Navy's really behind on that.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, the Navy's really behind on that.
Like behind the Marines and the Army and stuff like that, you mean?
Yeah, the Army, and I think the Marines and the Army have a much better camaraderie than there is in the Navy. And I think that's probably because they kind of deploy more into that brotherhood combat scenario, right? Where you got to eat, sleep, and shit in holes together and stuff like that. The Navy, you know, maybe in the future we'll have some real naval battles again, but the Navy hasn't had a really hardcore naval battle since World War II.
Yeah.
And I remember we used to sit over during right when we launched the attacks in Iraq. We had those ships sitting out in the Mediterranean, you know. And,
we
sat out. And we got to watch the cruise missiles launch, and then we all went downstairs and turned on CNN to watch them blow up.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's almost a separation.
Since you said that, I've had this idea for a few years when I started to see stuff about the South China Sea kind of start happening in the news and everything. Is it weird to say that I kind of feel like one of the ways they sell wars to the public is as an aesthetic, and since we haven't had a water battle in a long time, I feel like that might be part of our next major conflicts, is just because that's how they keep the public interested in watching the footage and supporting what's going on and shit. Is that nuts?
Well, do you guys think that it's pretty ironic how this whole World War thing is kind of coming together right at the exact same time that they're trying to bring in central bank digital currencies? Come on.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of tomfuckery up there that I've been looking at. I'm like, I don't know if any. It surprises me that more people are not, blatantly sort of aware of all the coincidences and all of the sort of corruption that has been going on in front of us with that whole war effort, or whatever you want to call that, proxy war. Listen, that's all.
I'm anti-war, guys. I want you to know that's what Intel work taught me. Is my work over there was not to go over and kill people, be Rambo or something. My goal was to always find intelligence that saved people's lives and helped, protect it.
Crazy.
And it just took you just had to go to bad places to get that kind of stuff,
Yeah, it is crazy to think, dude. We've poked a lot of fun at the Flamingo, but I would have never in 1,000 years have the balls to do all this stuff. You know what I mean? I was never doing that.
But bro, it's not balls. I was terrified the whole time.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, you know what? That's funny because I've heard that from people that I know that are police officers and shit, like in Chicago and whatever. It's like there's some sort of sense of duty that pushes you through. It's not like you're like, yeah, I love this. It's like fuck every day is like fuck. But you just do it because it's like, well, I guess this is what I fucking have to do. So,
Hey, listen, man, I had a disc around blow the dirt right up above my head, and I sat down and right about that time, my cell phone's dinging and stuff, and I'm like, am I in a dream? Where am I at?
Yeah, that's got to be fucking surreal.
Yeah,
man.
it's weird.
It's insane.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, all right. So, but getting back, yeah, I guess that was my question to you, or that was sort
the
of
other thing I was going to say.
How hard is that going to be for her?
Oh, listen, she's going to have an uphill battle with that, man. And the only advice that I could try to give to the family right now, okay? I mean, just today, just the advice that I could give them today is, first off, again, I can't apologize enough for your loss. I have 4 children, and if I lost one of them, it would devastate me. So the only advice I could give them, though, is to take a breath. You gotta sit down. Right now, you need to mourn. You need to think about the great times with your son. You need to think about all those great memories. You need to, hug your family. You need to hug your loved ones that are around you, and you need to just take a breath.
Yeah.
And right now, while you're going through that emotion, that emotion is there, and you don't want to have any knee-jerk reactions. You need to just that dealing with the Navy and dealing with the military, that opportunity is going to be there. That's going to be there in a week. That's going to be there in 2 weeks. It's going to be there in 2 months.
Yeah.
Right now, this family needs to just take care of themselves and take care of each other, and focus on healing for a little while before they make any decisions on what they want to do.
Yeah, I sort of had the same thought process when I heard, about all of this. And they probably don't want to hear that.
No judgment.
I know that's the thing is like, I'm not in the situation. It's not my fucking emotions that have just been, thrown into absolute chaos. So it's easier for you or I appreciate it. I like this is why I wanted to get your perspective, because you've dealt with this, entity in its in its sort of true form, and so you would have a better perspective of what they're actually going to go up against. But that was one of my first things is like, I think there's a tendency or sort of a compulsion to say, this is the mission now, I have to do this, I'll mourn later, and I don't think that's probably the best frame to go. But I think what you're saying makes sense. Like, it's going to be there. This, I don't think it's. Yeah, I think the emotion should be probably dealt, and that's, how long does that take? Who the fuck knows? Most people would say a lifetime. So, but yeah, I just, I guess that was, the reason that I thought that it would be interesting to talk to you. Just, it's obviously
guys,
it's the U.S. military.
I enjoyed the conversation. It was very critically thought, and I think it was a valid topic that was worth discussing. I appreciate you guys doing it.
Yeah, you got some. Man. You got. We'll have to have you on once in a while to tell some of your stories. If you don't mind, and like whatever aspect of it, and like just dealing with anything weird that you experienced or that's interesting.
Call,
yeah.
This was a great call. All right, man. Well, yeah. I'll share.
I also wanted to point out before you go how hilarious it is to me in like our bungling way that we just pick one random people out of a hat of a million podcasts. We're like, let's just fuck with this guy for no reason, and he turns out to be like this badass
fucking warrior. Like,
right. Like, son of a bitch.
That's a pretty good explanation of our instincts in life in general.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
this is typical. Yeah.
Very typical of us. All right, man. Well, thank you.
Listen, you guys have a good night.
All right, you too, man.
Yeah,
thanks
a lot,
for calling in, brother.
Peace.
All right,
later.
Peace.
Got it. You fucking sniveling idiots that we are. Look how our tone has changed. Hey, thanks a lot.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah. We'll talk to you again soon.
Well, thanks for calling.
Don't kill us.
I know. Before it was like, you're a fuck. Dude, you guys don't know what the fuck you're doing. We're going to make fun of your accent. Now it's like, goddamn, thanks for your service, buddy. Yeah. But yeah, I think that was kind of, that's what I was hoping for, is just a sort of a wider perspective of what it's like inside of the, the machine, and what my friend might be getting herself not into, because I don't know if there's a choice. I don't know if that's not really a choice. If you think that there's an injustice there that resulted in your child's death, I don't see that as a choice. So
no.
I'm not trying to dissuade her at all. I was just my thought was like,
it's just one of the worst opponents you could ever have.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so this will. I remember when a lot of my friends were getting indicted by the federal government for some crimes.
Sure.
And some of us other fellas.
No, just.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But I just remember going over to one of my best friend's houses and seeing, because, we'd all been in trouble many times, and seeing the paperwork for this indictment. It was not, 2-3 pages. It was a book like this, and on the front of it, it said, "The United States of America versus my buddy," and we both just looked at it and like,
"Oh,
you're fucked, man.
Dude,
you're
that's
fucked.
a bad opponent. That's
like this. This is not
good.
winnable. Like, you're totally fucked." So that was my thing. But I mean, from what he says is, his advice is to follow through. If you think this is a justified battle, and you think that something really was rotten within that, pursue it, So I guess that's at the end of the day. I will share on our page their where you can find their information, and if anyone has anyone that they know, or
Yeah, we're gonna actually maybe when we go to break we can do that.
Yeah. And anybody has any sort of information for them, or any sort of I don't know, whatever strife, but we'll just share it, because I know that they were they're in a place right now, and they've got a long fucking road ahead of them, and so
you guys can check it out and help out if you're
if there's anything you think you could do. To them, goddamn good luck. Our condolences. I don't even know what. I haven't actually personally talked to her. It's just too much going on right now for people to be coming out of the womb. I mean, I said my condolences online, but to that, should we take a quick break and come back and get some levity?
Yeah, and then we'll have some fun the third hour.
Yeah, we're gonna have some fun. Thank you again to Chris, aka the Flamingo. What a
here,
fucking
if you
good call, man.
Pull up something for break, I'll take a look at some comments really quick.
Yeah, what a fucking
because that was our old rival Flamingo.
Yeah.
Thanks again to him. The comments, JT Ewald says that's pretty great that we have the Flamingo on, I think. Connie says Flamingo and Lightning plus Radioville equals gold.
Yeah. It's gold, Jimmy.
Cadence Ann says an excellent caller. Listen, look at all these. Love this caller. Sorry I'm late, says Jerry Elrod. Okay. Navy gets the gravy. The Army gets the beans. I don't know if that's true.
Well, it was a very good chance.
Yeah. We don't know.
Sounds like a Michael Ewaldism.